eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
Good morning. Here we are, back-to-back shows. How good does it feel? Put some purple love hearts in the chat if you were here for the show last night, aka this morning, depending on where you are in the world. You guys are the real ones. We're getting into Dylan Borland today. So this came out a couple of days ago. We're going to be looking at a few clips from the interview, but we're also going to be doing, what else have we got? Kind of looking at a few videos, doing a little bit of analysis around like TR3B and triangular craft. And kind of just talking about what we heard in this interview, which I think is quite interesting. So plenty of people, you guys are unreal. Lots of people were here last night and you're back here again. Church is in session and it feels good. Andrew says, tell Kelsey to chill, bruh. Andrew, I have no idea who you're referring to, who Kelsey is, but I appreciate it, bro. Thank you very much. Guys, slap a like on the video. Church is in session. Also, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to my own other socials here. If you don't follow me on Instagram or on X, go and jump over there. I'm on TikTok as well, but not super active. It's really just to post shorts of what you guys get here. The merch store is live. You can get yourself some Polarity merch. Let people know you're an absolute freak. Because in this day and age, if you're not a little bit weird, you are a little bit boring. Probably a lot boring, actually, I would say. But let's get into the show. Like I said, we've got a bit to get into. We're going to start off with the first clip here. This is Dylan Borland talking about the drone program. And I think this is interesting for a few reasons. But I think this is going to be a good place to start. So let's jump straight in. If there's any volume issues, just let me know and I'll fix it up as we go.
Couches, stay in my grandmother's basement, but my guidance counselor wanted me to go to UPenn, and I wanted to work for the FBI. And my guidance counselor really wanted me to go to UPenn, and I refused to go there. I went to Indiana University of Pennsylvania, little small state college in PA. They had a National Guard ROTC program. I joined. Did that for 2 years for my undergrad, and at the end of 2 years, I got pulled in. They're like, hey, we want to offer you an officer contract, and I said I want to go active duty Air Force. They laughed and they're like, yeah, we understand, let us know when you graduate, we'll help you get in there. So did my undergraduate criminal justice, criminology, poli-sci, graduated, took my AFOQT, Air Force officer qualification test for the Air Force to be active duty, passed it. They offered me air battle manager. At the time, I had no idea what that was. This is 2009 going into 2010. If you guys remember, the economy was in shambles. And I was like, I have no idea what this job is. The recruiter couldn't help me. So I was like, well, I got to find a place to live, start paying back student loans. So I decided to enlist as an imagery analyst, a one-in-one. They look at maps like these, photography, satellite, drone, manned aircraft, ISR, the whole kit and caboodle, IR, MSI, HSI, EO. You name it, if it's a picture coming from something up there, we're looking at it.
So you had to get a lot of training to know what you're...
I couldn't help when I heard that for the first time. Because remember, guys, Dylan Borland did a lot of this, geospatial intelligence, image analysis, all of this kind of stuff is back in like 2012 and 2013. This is when he held these positions, right? And was doing a lot of this stuff. I think he did do it a little bit afterwards as well. But at least like the triangle sighting, that also happened in 2012. But the reason why I find this interesting is because he's basically saying, whatever we want to look at, we can. And they get into more details about this. But I just found it interesting that, he's saying that, but for some reason we can't work out what happened to MH370, which is a giant passenger jet. Yet, as you hear in this interview, if they want to know how many people are in a car that's going along the road, if they want to know how many people are in a house, they can find it out. They can look. But for some reason, no one can figure out where this plane went. Doesn't really add up to me.
looking at.
tech school was about 6-7 months, and then I had gotten into what is conventionally known as the drone program, which has made news around the world time and time again for lethal action strikes. I had to go through additional training through there, about 3 months, and some on-the-job training, OJT.
Drone strikes meaning you're here in the States operating drones in theaters of operation around the world.
Yes. When I graduated.
Mike D. What on earth, my man? That is, bro, thank you. That's crazy. I hope you didn't accidentally hit a 0 on the end of that by accident. If you did, my sincerest apologies. But if you didn't, you, sir, have just won the Legend of the Stream Award. There you are. 50 memberships. That's actually insane, man. Thank you very much. You also celebrated 1 month as a member, saying, dude, I'm late to the weirdo party. I'm thankful to be with all of you nuts. I'm thankful to have you, man. Yeah, absolutely. That's just absolutely insane generosity, mate. Thank you very, very much. And guys, if you're one of the 50 people who just got a free membership, welcome. Enjoy it. Go check out the members only content. There's probably going to be another members only video coming very soon. I try to do at least one a month. But thank you very much. You've also got access to the members section in the Discord as well. Meg says Suki treat time. Meg, Suki doesn't work mornings. No, she doesn't work mornings, unfortunately, and it is 11 a.m. here in Australia. But she's more of a night shift girly. Yeah.
Tech school, I ended up at the 30th Intelligence Squadron, which is under the 480th and 497th wing. And while there, I got attached to
redacted.
So every single special forces unit I probably worked with, MARSOC, pararescue,
redacted.
SEALs, which is
redacted.
Whatever missions they were doing between pretty much 2010 until when I got out in 2013, I had my hand in. I told you guys before, I did the search and rescue for the SEALs and Marines who passed away in the helicopter accident, the ones that got.
How are we feeling about the redacted stuff? I mean, I'm sure generally we're all a little bit annoyed. I'm sure no one's going to say they enjoy it. But it's very Corbell, isn't it? And by that, I mean the way that it's being done, right? You could have just like dropped the volume on that word and like, you know, essentially just mute that word when you were in the edit. But this whole like black screen and like overlaid voice, redacted. I was about to tell you the secrets, but then they got redacted. Dramatic. It just feels a little bit unnecessary. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know, man. I feel like the one thing Jeremy Corbell gets a lot of shit for is the fact that like he's a bit dramatic, right? I mean, we've talked about it on the show. He either like doesn't care or doesn't like read feedback. But I really think that this creates a reason for people to start asking questions about you. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you were trying to deliver a message and it was sincere and it was important information, which, you know, this seems to be, I would be trying to avoid any kind of theatrics that could make people think that I am talking shit or just trying to make stuff up or be a hype things up. You know what I mean? Like the information in this interview in itself should be groundbreaking enough that it doesn't need an extra layer of cinematography and theatrics. You know what I mean? It should just be about the content, not the impactful redacted overlays. You know what I mean? Yeah, Bleak says redacted, vomit. Toxic Fart, MH370 is in Josh's garage. It is, in fact. Yes, you are correct. That is the other side of the wormhole. Aeroscene Films, welcome, you little freak. Thank you very much for becoming a member. And Drona with a little $5 sticker. Thank you very much. All right, let's keep going. Hopefully we don't get redacted too many more times.
Bin Laden. I did Overwatch for the withdrawal of Iraq. That was my unit I was a part of. I was a part of those missions. And I have done some high-profile lethal action missions.
Lethal action missions meaning you're taking action through the drone that you're operating against enemy combatants.
Yeah. So it was my job to determine who, what, when, where, why, how, and make the call on that is the person we are seeking and what is happening.
You make the call, you press the button, and somebody's dead.
I make the call, I relay that in certain capacities depending on who I work for, because I did this in a number of different ways, and each place I did it has a different technique to relay that information, but my call would go and then that would get approval and the button would be pushed. Yes.
And when you push those buttons, are you thinking, I'm doing my duty, I'm protecting my country, fighting for the right cause, or do you start having second thoughts about it at some point?
That is such a convoluted answer, and the best way I can say it is this. I love my time in the Air Force because while I was in the Air Force, it was about bringing our buddies home. And that I worked for Five Eye. So I did special forces for Great Britain, special forces for Australia. Sorry, getting choked up a little bit. There's a major difference between doing it for good reasons and doing it for political reasons. So my time in the Air Force was good. I thought I did a great job. I think that's a great mission. I think that everything should be done through the DoD. And that gets into places that we really can't go. But yeah, there's always lingering questions.
I've only seen you get...
Saying that everything should be done through the DoD, he thinks everything should be done through the DoD, obviously implies that some things aren't. And he's talking about essentially if anyone just got in or maybe misunderstood or whatever, what he's saying is that basically he was involved in drone programs, and his job through his geospatial intelligence and looking at, cameras from probably different systems up in the sky that can look downward, he determines where people are, who the target is, how to get to them, and basically, he makes the decision on do we send in the drone and blow someone up, essentially. And he's saying that he thinks it should be the Department of Defense that's doing that, which implies that someone other than the Department of Defense is doing those kind of things. And Jeremy and George kind of probe him on this a little bit, but he won't go into it. I mean, I can only assume it kind of, to me, the first thing I think of is like CIA. I don't know. I don't know if I'm off with that. Are other people kind of thinking that? I'm interested to see
choked
what
up
you guys
twice. And right there, I'm assuming you got choked up a little bit there because the work that you're doing does take a mental toll on you. You're talking about eliminating combatants. That's what you're talking.
He says privatized company that he was working under. I think that could be CIA. As a contractor. I think a lot of these big aerospace companies and whatever would contract to the CIA. I'm not saying it is, but I think it could still be a possibility, even with that description.
Talking about targets, eliminating people, and you have to make that decision. You've had to make that decision a lot of time, hundreds of times.
Probably.
Right. So I just want to contextualize why maybe that's harder to talk about than the UAP stuff we're going to talk about.
My friends have committed suicide. The drone program was actually notorious for suicide. I don't really know how many people know that. There isn't, at least when I was in, and from people I know who stuck in that world, it's gotten better. They brought psychologists in to help people. The commanding officers and even the colonels, generals are more understanding. A little background history, the reason why they actually started to care about the emotional impact was because of the pilots. The pilots were the ones that were having a terrible time switching over. So you had A-10 pilots, you had C-130 pilots, they come over and they be doing what we were doing and they just be miserable. And there's a difference, you get into TTPs and you get into certain things with that world that...
TTPs?
Techniques, tactics, procedures. Okay. That they'll never let out. But long story short is there's a difference between the SF guys on the ground getting shot at. It's life and death. And there's a difference between sitting there remotely and watching a family to where you know what grocery store they go to, you know what time their kids go to soccer practice, you know what time they go to the bathroom, you know what time their brother comes over for dinner every 2-3 times a week. And
You have that information at your fingertips.
yeah, you're watching it.
You're watching it. So it's part of his job, and I guess other people in his role. Like, that's the level of detail these people, because like we can only assume that these systems are coming from something that's up in the sky. Like, they must be, whether it's a drone in itself or a satellite or something, right? Something has the ability to see who's. There's a fly in here. What the hell? The hell? Ruining church. I hate flies. Somehow they have the ability to like see who's in your house, what time people are coming over, like completely spy on every aspect of your life. And this is in a sense of overseas. Like, this is happening overseas. So they really have this capability to do this anywhere in the world. The fly is a CIA spy? I think it might be. I think it heard me talking about Israel in the Jason Samosa interview, and now there are these electronic flies everywhere.
But this goes back to why I love my time in the Air Force, is because I was working ops, what I was doing was in relation to them to make sure they came home. So yeah, we would do strikes, but it was mainly called TIC, troops in contact. So if we were getting hit up, it's like, hey, you got a Marine combat engineer team that had been blown up by some daisy chain IED, get over there, see they're taking indirect fire and find them. And then it's like, okay, we see them firing. It's not our guys, hit them. That I think is honorable. There are other things that I have done that are questionable.
Meaning you're told, all right, go for this target. And that means you press a button and what happens? A missile? An explosive, some kind?
I mean, you're gonna get into things I know will never be allowed on film.
Okay.
But
Redacted.
long story short is, I remember one time we were after somebody who was
redacted.
And
Classic.
we had him and we submitted the packet to take him out. And because of a certain foreign diplomat being in the nation, we were told we had to wait until he left because it would cause an international issue.
So Dylan's not like operating the trigger on the drone, but what he's doing, from what I understand, or were you?
No. So what I did was I confirmed who it was, so that way the person would take the shot.
Yeah, he didn't fly the drones. He was the intelligence gatherer to determine where to send the drone, who the target is, and sort of when and how to do it. Yeah, the redacted stuff is, again, I think we're probably going to get that as we look through this. It's frustrating. It's a little bit annoying, but I guess, it just kind of is what it is. But I did find it interesting that they're talking about this drone program so much. And that's sort of the end of what we're going to look at. I've got the full interview linked below, so definitely go and check out the whole thing if you haven't yet. But, I think like there's no direct correlation here and they don't try to draw the conclusion themselves. But I did just kind of find it interesting that they're talking about drone programs and obviously, the New Jersey drone thing. And there's this thing going on right now that seems kind of similar in Denmark. I haven't taken a good look at it, but I don't think what Dylan Bolan worked for was the same program that happened in New Jersey or whatever that was. But it's just interesting the fact that they're kind of talking about the kind of drone operations that go on, right? So I think it's maybe not too much of a stretch or a leap to think that like what was going on in New Jersey and in other places of the world too was, I don't know, maybe someone else's drone program. I honestly don't know. I don't think they were all just drones. I think there was I think there was a bit of everything going on there. It's really just speculation though. Toxic Fart says Josh's address is redacted. Left-handed 2026, you little freak, sir. Welcome. Thank you for becoming a member again. And you too, Johnny Guns, legend. Bruce says, let me clear this up. Redacted equals Lockheed Martin. I mean, I think at least one of those redacted probably does equal Lockheed Martin. Yes, sir, Bruce, I think you are correct. Flies in the Wi-Fi. Yeah, it seems to be leaving me alone for now. But if it randomly detonates on stream, well, at least I'll have a viral clip. Tools with $20 says, my first time catching you live. Just had to say hi, Josh. Thank you very much, Tools. Very generous super chat as well. I appreciate that. And welcome. Take a seat, sir. Make yourself comfortable. Bleak says, damn, I couldn't imagine what that would be like. Poor guys, seeing it firsthand would take a real mad toll on the psyche. 100%, dude. I mean, you know, even when you are doing something for your country, because he kind of says there's a difference between when you're working on a mission and you're trying to bring countrymen, like when you think about what you're doing is to help bring your guys who are on the ground home safely, it's different to when you're just kind of tasked to do something with like a political motive or something like that. But I think even once you start to like really wake up a little bit, I feel like doing it for anyone would become quite tough. When you start to realize that like the corruption runs right to the top, and yes, there are people doing good things, but also at the end of the day, what the hell are we doing? What are we doing here? Why are we in a war like this? Why can't the war end? Because the war doesn't ever seem to end. And I think many, you know, soldiers and veterans are like pretty clued on to that idea now. And it would probably make a lot of people, like he said, he knows people who have committed suicide. People who have been a part of this stuff, sent in drones, killed many, many people, and then maybe start to realize that they've just been like a pawn in like a massive propaganda war machine. That would be tough. Like that would be tough to deal with for the mind. 100%. Barbados with a little sticker. Thank you very much. Larissa gifting 5 memberships. Larissa, you are an absolute gem of a human being. Thank you very much. Shout out to the 5 newbies. And 420 Breezy says, I got a kitten. Should I name her Lacerda or what other alien names? If it's a girl, I think Lacerda's a cute name. If it's a boy, Skinny Bob. Got to be Skinny Bob for sure. All right, let's get into the next clip, which is about this triangular UFO coming from the NASA hangar. But I thought it would be kind of interesting if before we did that, we just looked at a little bit of recent news, which was the fact that apparently NASA, like in this last, when is this, 17th of September? Okay, so this is 10 days ago, has been officially labeled as a spy agency now. So I thought that's kind of interesting. So we'll just do a quick little read through of this article here. Let me just, here we go. All right. So this is on Yahoo News, by the way. Trump executive order quietly declared that NASA is now a spy agency. This was posted on Wednesday, the 17th of September. The Trump administration issued an executive order late last month, quietly declaring that NASA will operate as a national intelligence and security agency going forward. Now, look, I'm not American, so, you know, forgive me for commenting on this, but do you guys really need another spy agency? I feel like, you know, with the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, the NRO, do you really need another one? How much spying do you guys need to do? Surely the 4 public spy agencies that we know about are covering the ground. And I'm sure there are many others that we don't even know about. I don't know. Just kind of maybe feels like a bit of an overkill. I feel like you guys probably have things covered, probably spying on the world well enough by now. But hey, you know, don't let me tell you how to do things. The order stipulates that the agency will now have as a primary function intelligence, counterintelligence, investigative, and national security work. Right, again, because, yeah, you probably don't have enough intelligence and counterintelligence operations going on at the moment, so I guess it makes sense. It's a major departure for the agency, which has historically focused on space exploration, as well as space and earth sciences over its 6-7 year lifespan. Has it really focused on space exploration, though? Because, I mean, the only space exploration I can think of is that you apparently went to the moon 60 years ago, and then, for some strange reason, thought it would be a good idea to throw all of that technology and how you made it in the bin. Because that's what normal companies and people do, right? You invent something that allows you to do the most incredible, biggest venture of mankind in history, and then you throw it in the bin. Because that makes sense, right? Any rational person would go further than any man has ever gone in history and then throw it in the bin and never do it again, right? It makes perfect logical sense that you would do that. And it would also make perfect logical sense that you would never go back, right? It would make perfect logical sense that you only went there to put a flag in it and televise it to the nation and rally the morale and belief and support of an entire nation. Conveniently, not long after you just imported a whole bunch of Nazis into the country, get everyone really on your side and believing in your cause, stick a flag in it, delete all the information and data and technology that got you there, and then never go back. It makes sense, right? I mean, any logical person would probably follow the same blueprint. No mention of that science and exploration stuff. NASA Watch founder Keith Cowing, a former scientist at the agency who now closely follows its internal and external politics. Most of this stuff sounds kind of boring, probably fake, and also gay. A huge part of the reason that I have not interested. Trump's latest declaration comes at a turbulent time for NASA. The White House has already threatened to cut the agency's science budget in half. I mean, what has NASA even been doing, like, with their budget? I mean, we had Mike Gold in not the last UAP hearing, but the one before that, basically begging for money. What are you guys even doing with it? Hiding shit? Are you just using your funding to hide everything that you find? Because kind of seems like you don't do anything. Kind of seems like SpaceX is the only rocket company that's actively doing stuff. I don't know. I mean, to me, I think they've probably been... I feel like what this is Trump just going, hey, you guys have actually just been a intelligence and spy organization for the last 40 or 50 years. We're just going to call you that now. Because you haven't explored anything in a long ass time. In fact, the last thing you explored, the moon, most people don't even believe you did that. So let's just call you what you are, and we'll add you to the long list in number 49 of our spy agencies. That's kind of what seems like what's going on there. But that's just my opinion. Mike D, Toxic Fart says NASA is in charge of that fly, Josh. That would make sense. I mean, they've got to be funding something. Mike D says allegedly, and Bleak says they are collecting intelligence agencies like Pokemon. They might even have a conspiracy Pokedex like we do. All right, let's jump into the next clip where Dylan Borland basically says that he believes that the giant flying triangle came from the NASA hangar specifically.
You could see the light glisten off of it. Equilateral triangle, I could only see the bottom in angles. It was a 90-degree right angle all around. I could not see the top of it. There were 4 lights.
Do you guys notice Jeremy Corbell's leg just here? What's just here? He's so desperate to talk. He is basically like ADHD stimming. I know that because I do it too.
One smaller light on each corner, and then a larger second light, which was 2 to 3 times the size.
Or David motherfucking Grush is standing behind him, just tickling that sweet spot on his back. You know when you tickle your dog's belly and their leg gets going? I think that's likely what's happening.
Of the corner lights, and in my estimation, it was about the size of a small size sedan. So like
It's
a
the sweet
Nissan
spot.
SER Sentra, Nissan Altima. That was at the center. All of them were white. What was odd though is that when I'm looking at it, the way I have tried to describe it, and words cannot describe it because it's so wild seeing, is imagine taking a picture of the James Webb Telescope where all those colors of galaxies are out there. Imagine those colors, make them yellow, gold, put them on top of the aircraft and make it a lava lamp, because the whole outside had this yellow transparent glow coming all around the craft and it was pulsating.
Super hard to imagine. Jesse says plasma. He's describing plasma. I mean, I would have to agree. You know, not that I've ever seen plasma surround a craft, but it certainly sounds like something like that. At least, you know, based on what we hear, you can put two and two together that it seems like it's something along those lines, 100%. Sumo says, I mean, the F-22 Raptor does cool stuff, and it's basically a triangle too. I think this is a really cool point. Do you guys remember when China released their like next-gen fighters towards the end of last year? I covered it briefly on the channel, and it's something that I've actually noticed. When you look at like the latest gen, and I think even like, I think it's the F-47 is the latest American one, the jets are looking more and more just triangular. They're becoming like increasingly closer to looking more like that shape rather than like, you know, a distinguished like fuselage with wings and a tail and all that, like a normal plane. They're slowly morphing into triangles. It really does seem like that.
So this thing flies to me, it's a light, all of a sudden while it's flying to me, this triangle appears. I can't tell you if it was active camouflage. I cannot tell you if it manifested around it. The only thing I can tell you is that light came and a triangle appeared around it. My cell phone gets incredibly hot and completely freezes and shuts down. I'm under it, and the first thought in my mind is literally, okay, so this is real too. Like, I've been in
Redacted.
I've had access to things, and I'm like, okay, another thing that's real.
Hours, meaning hours.
I would initially suspect so. I mean, it was on the base, due to things that I found out, having been in government for long enough and knowing certain truths, and having been through the whistleblower process and understanding questions and why they're asked and how they're asked. I am now of the opinion that what I saw was not ours, but...
That's interesting, right? Interesting. He thinks that what he saw was not ours. And like, there's so many angles you could go with this. I tend to believe that he, you know, comes across as genuine. He hasn't really given us a reason to not believe him yet. But like, what does that mean? The only thing that could mean is that I guess there's two things. The first one is that it's not ours, and if it's coming from a NASA hangar at Langley Air Force Base, a sensitive military facility, hovering 100 yards off the ground, then either that means people who are in charge of that facility are working in some way with something that is not ours, is not human. Like, it must be that. Or something that is not human is basically like, can do whatever the hell they want, and at least the US will just bend over and spread their cheeks. Because if you don't have a deal with something that's non-human, and they're flying these plasma triangles 100 feet off the ground all around your base, and you're not trying to, and it's a military base, so you've probably got weapons there to defend yourself and stop them doing that. If you're not defending yourself, that either means two things. You're like, you bend over and spread your cheeks for them because you know that you can't do shit, or you're working with them. They're literally the only options if we are to go along the lines of what Dylan Borland is saying? Does that mean working with them like there are humans on that craft too, or there isn't humans on the craft, but they were just coming to visit and have a meeting, a bit of a boardroom meeting? Like, you know, I'm just trying to go through the scenarios here of like what it could mean, why it was there, and putting together with what Dylan is saying that he, based on what he thinks, it's not ours. So these are the solutions that it seems to leave us with, in my opinion.
This gets into a troubling precedent, which is if that one wasn't ours, then why?
Redacted.
But I'm under it. It's probably in front of me 3-5 minutes, and I'm just looking at it. There is no sound. There is nothing. It is just hovering there, and it's just pulsating above me, right above the JAG office and the gym.
Did it seem to be reacting to you because you'd seen it, or?
I don't know. You know, that is one of the questions, one of many questions that I have as a quote-unquote experiencer, as a whistleblower, as a veteran, as somebody who has been in close proximity to these, as somebody who has had their life destroyed over this. That is one of the questions I would.
What about the Jew says, this channel is very depressing. Have you any solutions to fix the problem or just scare everyone? Just scare everyone, bro. I basically started this channel just to instill a whole bunch of fear and frighten the population. So hopefully it worked for you. And I guess the solution would be to just leave. But let me know how you go with that, man. But yeah, that is the point of this channel, just to scare everyone. I'm glad you worked that out quickly.
Would love to know, because it's one of the things that keeps me up at night, which is why did it fly across the base to me?
You had said before you've seen these balloons come out of the NASA facility. They weren't glowing.
It would be like a light, you know.
Like a balloon.
Yes, but this one was glowing, and it seemed to have come out of that same spot. Or do you know it came out of there?
What I am 100% sure of, I cannot tell you it came out of the hangar. I am 100% sure it came from that hangar.
What he says there is kind of like, I don't know if it's a misspeak or he didn't like distinguish what he means clearly, because he says, let's just replay it, because the words that he uses are interesting.
It would be like a light, you know.
Like a balloon.
Yes, but this one was glowing, and it seemed to have come out of that same spot. Or do you know it came out of there?
What I am 100% sure of, I cannot tell you it came out of the hangar. I am 100%.
I can't tell you that it came out of the hangar, but I'm 100%
sure it came from that hangar.
But I'm 100% sure it came from the hangar. They sound like contradicting statements to me. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's, I don't know if he's trying to say like, I don't know if it physically came like out of the hangar door, but he's sure that it came from where that hangar is. I don't know. That's kind of how I'm interpreting that. But I think either or, the fact that he's saying it came from where the NASA hangar is, and he's really making a point of saying that, I think is like very interesting. Is Trump's announcement and like the change to it becoming a spy agency have anything to do with like the timing of this testimony? I don't know, as I'm just speculating, but I think like just implicating NASA in all of this is like super, super interesting, right? I mean, you know, let's not forget, we've said it a lot. So many Nazi scientists and engineers were involved in the establishment of NASA. A lot of these guys were also interested in like esoteric, you know, occult rituals, black magic. So was Jack Parsons. So, you know, there is this like weird history in the foundations of NASA that relate to esoteric rituals and occultism, which also does have its links to non-human intelligence as well. And then basically NASA's entire history, not even just the moon landing, is weird, right? I mean, the moon landing is obviously the big one, but it's like, what else did you guys actually do? Like, not really much of significance. But is that just a cover? Were you guys actually doing a lot of things that were very significant that you didn't want to tell anyone about? I think the former is far more likely. Mr. T with $15, my man, says Ian Carroll dropped a video investigating the Charlie Kirk hit. He came across a CIA recruiting faction within the uni with an officer linked to morphing aircraft. Thought it was weird. 2238 min timestamp. Thanks, bro. I actually wanted to, we might actually talk about that in another video soon. Thank you for that. I'll have to check it out. Bruce says Trump is an idiot. He's getting the military heads together for a loyalty test. God have mercy on my country. Toxic Fart says Jake Barber would call it a 3 gone. He absolutely would call it a 3 gone. Very good. Zapparoo says, great job, Josh. The drones are Lockheed Martin Future Tactile Unmanned Aerial Systems. That's a mouthful. Last large test was in New Jersey. Recent test run was in Norway and served as a warning to Putin. Very interesting. Sound like you're speaking with a lot of conviction there. Are you working for the CIA, sir? How do you know so much? Maggie says, Josh, love and light to you and all the weirdos. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Maggie. It's always love and light. And Michael says, imagine every time Ross took a gasp of breath, it was redacted. Great show last night and glad I've caught this one. Thank you very much, Michael. And if that was the case, I think most of the show would be redacted.
There is no doubt in my mind it was at that hangar.
Meaning it came out of the hangar, meaning it was housed there, or it had been hovering there?
Could have been hovering there. It could have been on the ground outside of it. It could have come out from it. I cannot tell you because I didn't see it, but I know it came from that hangar.
And it shot off at the end.
Yeah, so I first see the light. I finish my cigarette, 7-8 minutes. I walk up. This thing flies to me. Triangle appears. I'm under it, 3 to 5 minutes. And all of a sudden, the center light flashes. It flashes 2 to 3 times. It's just this quick, like almost if you plug a electrical outlet in the wall, you know, that spark electricity.
After we finish this clip, we're going to analyze a few things that kind of relate to this. Joy Leapart says, you're forgetting about Voyager, the first satellite to leave our solar system, rovers on the other planets, and space telescopes like Hubble and Webb. That's more cost effective when the budget is cut. Fair play, Joy. You are right. There has been, there have been rovers and things like that. And you know, depends how tinfoil hat you want to be, because I know there would be people that even think the images that we get from rovers are fake. I mean, I've seen people like trying to compare photos that are allegedly from Mars to like real places on Earth, and just showing that like if you color grade this photo orange, it matches this photo from Mars. Like, I'm not saying it is all fake, but also it's like, how far do you go? Like because once you feel like you've been lied to about the moon landing, it's like, well, now it's like the boy who cried wolf. Like, do I believe anything you tell me? But then that's dangerous, right? Because then that's when you start thinking the world is flat, space is fake, and you know, we live in the Truman Show, which we might. But like, it's you know, who knows? Who honestly knows? I just think it's strange that, you know, we apparently went to the moon, and now with the technology we have, which is just like literally light years beyond what apparently put us on the moon, we've never gone back. We still haven't made it to Mars. You know, it's just like, despite the giant leap in technology, there's no giant leap in space exploration. Apparently, there's also no giant leap in aeroplane propulsion systems. Apparently, even though in the 50s there was articles about the G engines coming. Weird how all other technology curve has gone like this, but like space exploration and you know, jet engines just went like, hit like the 50s and just went flatlined. Yet everything else went like boom, AI, internet, everything's connected. It doesn't ever end. But not space exploration, not propulsion systems. Bit weird.
It does that, and that thing shoots off to commercial airjet level. In my aero testimony, I said 20 or 30,000 feet. I estimate commercial aircraft level because I've seen commercial aircraft flying around the base. That's usually what they cruise at. And as it goes off, it gets to that flight level in seconds, like 3 seconds, easy. And at that moment, I feel static electricity all over my body. And I immediately smell a rainstorm, lightning storm, like a strong lightning thunderstorm. That smell you smell after there's just lightning and just horrific, beautiful thunderstorm. I smell that, static electricity, still no noise, and it gets up to the flight level. My phone, I'm able to reset, and it gets up there, and the only light I could see is the center light. So I couldn't see the corner lights, just the center light. If I did not witness it take off, that would have looked like a star. Try to get my phone reset, I get it reset, I want to take a picture of it, I can't make out anything, and I kick myself to this day because I'm looking at my phone, and I remember looking at it, I'm like, man, should I keep this? And I'm like, no one's ever going to believe it, you can't see anything, and I was like, yeah, but the date and time are in there. I'm an idiot and I erased it. So it gets up to that flight level, it pauses, and it's there, and I'm watching it, and after a few minutes, it goes due east out over the bay, out into the Atlantic Ocean. And I made the point to make sure, because I know this is real, I know this exists, I've experienced it, and I came forward out of concern for people's safety, which is the only reason I came out of the shadows, because of what was done to me and what I know is true. I made the point to make sure that everyone I told is, that did not go to Norfolk, which is where the naval station is. That didn't go up north towards the Marine station. That didn't go over the...
Redacted.
That went due east out over the ocean. And I just watched this thing kind of trailer off like a satellite out over the ocean.
What do you do at
I think that's an interesting point. Over the Atlantic Ocean. You know, who was it the other day? It was Tim Burchett. There was that little clip of Tim Burchett saying that like these things are coming from the ocean. Danny Sheehan has spoken about Guadalupe Island. There's a base under Guadalupe Island. Like the orbs, USOs, like a lot of this stuff seems to come from the ocean, or the ocean has a big part in it. And we've heard of stories where it looks like these things come out of the water or go into the water, and the water almost part for it. Like there is some kind of gravity, like gravity is imposing some kind of effect around the craft that when it goes towards the water moves out of the way and the craft just basically drops into it. That's how Bill Cooper described his sighting anyway. But it really feels like what we're getting here from all angles is the fact that this phenomenon, this non-human intelligence, is based in the ocean. And it makes sense, right? I mean, we always hear that we've explored hardly any of our oceans. It would be the best place for something intelligent to hide. And there already is so much intelligence in the ocean, like dolphins, octopus, like they're both super, I mean, they don't speak English, but that doesn't mean they're not intelligent. Like they're extremely intelligent beings. And who knows? Maybe the Atlantic Ocean is called that because that's where Atlantis is. Maybe Atlantis is under the ocean, and this triangle just finished up the boardroom meeting with their employees at NASA and America, and we're just heading off back to Atlantis to continue ruling the world from afar. Who knows? Who honestly knows? This is obviously where, you know, the East Coast, where a lot of the drone sightings were happening as well. People were saying that they were coming from the ocean. It definitely feels like that's where this conversation is heading. Also, the Bermuda Triangle is like basically there as well, like just sort of south of the East Coast. Things disappearing. Puerto Rico, Aguadilla case. Like there's just so much around that area that indicates that whatever this is coming from the ocean. And yeah, it just kind of makes sense, right?
at the time, though? Is there a process that you would follow for something like that? Hey, tell your commanding officer or file a written report or what?
So there's no process at all. I told a couple of my friends, and there was a couple sergeants who had heard me talking one night. And, you know, I've talked with a mutual friend who testified under oath about this.
Oh, yeah, let's not forget about the 4chan stuff. The mobile construction unit, I mean, the Bluegill Triple Prime shoot down. Like, there's literally documented Navy evidence of that after Bluegill Triple Prime high-altitude nuke tests, something came out of the sky. There's footage of it. And then there's documentation that the Navy tried to do a salvage operation underneath this thing a couple of days later, and basically the Navy diver that went down there ended up in a mental health facility for 18 months because of what he saw. An enormous thing at the bottom of the ocean that shook up his entire worldview. I think the evidence is out there. The evidence is out there. Absolutely. Now let's go. We're going to pause this for a minute and we're going to go and look at a couple of things that are similar to a few of the things Dylan Bolan talked about, which was the fact that this thing kind of flashed a couple of times the same way that something would when you plug it into like an electrical outlet and then took off. Now, if you watched the Jason Somoza interview I did, you would have seen this clip, but it's a classic. It is a classic, so let's watch it again. This is Jerusalem, 2011. Filmed from actually 4 different point of views, but we've only got 3 here. So this is 3 people. 3 people filming from a separate vantage point. The same thing, which is a light that descends over the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, flashes a couple of times and shoots away, just like the way Dylan described it. And he also described it how this thing was just a light until he saw a triangle materialize around it. So, you know, I'm not saying this is that, but it could be. Who knows? This isn't the, you know, what Dylan saw before a triangle materialized around it.
לא, כולנו רואים את זה. מה זה? שיו!
Let's just rewind that back a little. I mean, this is like one of the most craziest clips, I really do think. The fact, like, the year that it came out, 2011, the quality of cameras we had, all these clips basically came out at the same time. It literally matches the description that Dylan gave. Little, like, quick double flash and shoots away. I mean, it is crazy. It is crazy. And the other one I wanted to look at is, and I wanted to talk a bit more about this one as well. This is the TR3B footage that I showed in the Dylan Bolan video that I did. A few people, I saw people commenting on it, and I've seen people talking about this footage saying that this is CGI, or that it's like someone has said that this is a CGI recreation of what someone saw. And I just want to give my opinion on why I don't think that makes sense. First of all, if I saw something crazy and I was going to make a CGI recreation of what I saw, I wouldn't be adding in how when I saw it, my eyes were going like this because I can't hold a camera straight. Okay, you don't add in this when you're trying to show, like, hey, bro, look at this crazy thing that I saw. Except when I saw it, I kept moving my head like this. So I'm going to make the video like this just so you can see it the same way that I looked at it. No one does that. Okay, use your head. No one does that. Also, let's also look at the fact that this thing is consistently popping in and out of focus. Now, you can do that. Like, you can do that in visual effects. It's not hard to do. But again, if I'm trying to show you something I looked at, I'm not going to make it harder for you to look at by putting it out of focus like this and constantly zooming in and out. Okay? These things don't make logical sense. And this is the same kind of like thinking that I apply to the MH370 videos. Yes, they could be faked, just like yes, this could be faked. But there are things that are done in it that do not make sense for someone who is trying to make a convincingly fake video. It just doesn't add up to me. And you've also got these interesting like little wingtips on the top there. They're kind of hard to see, but like you can see those little like, you know, like basically like the same thing you see like a tail on an aeroplane. Like this to me makes me think that it's potentially one of ours. I don't know. This part here, I find interesting because just like Dylan Bolan said, he goes, it was a light and then a triangle materialized around the light. I mean, that is literally exactly what we see here, except it happened in reverse. We saw the triangle first, and then the light appeared, and then it goes to take off. And I went through this in my other video, but it makes me wonder, right? Because Dylan says what he saw first was just the light. So like this. And you know, it's preparing to leave. We see the double flash thing. We see the little flash, just kind of like we did in the Jerusalem video. And then it's gone. It just shoots away. Well, it makes me wonder if, like, you know, on the other end of wherever this thing went, does it, again, arrive in this state? This is the state that it left in. Does it arrive wherever it went like this? And this is how Dylan saw it when it arrived to him. And then after a while, it became this. So, it, you know, if we play this in reverse, it went from being the light to being the light with a triangle materialized around it to whatever. Like, it kind of feels like the same process, but happening in reverse. And obviously, there's that weird little flash that we saw in the Jerusalem video as well. So there's kind of two things there that, to me, you know, it's not conclusive, obviously, but it's interesting at the very least. And the other one I wanted to look at was something that people have been asking me to check out for a little while now. This is the Kissimmee, Florida footage, okay? So we're going to watch it. It's only 2 minutes, and I've done a little breakdown. I'm going to give you guys my opinion. So I don't know if there's any sound here. There's a couple of shots to check out here. This is posted a month ago, by the way. I think a few people have seen this footage. I had seen it before. So there's this shot here. I hadn't seen this one before. Kissimmee, correct. Yes, Kissimmee. That is right. So there's this footage. I know it's not the best watching it vertical like this, but I couldn't find any sort of landscape versions. So you can see this triangular craft in the sky. And look, what I will say, one thing that I did find interesting here is when you see this craft flash, one thing to take note is, like, look along the car here, because you do see light interaction. Like, there is light interacting with the car from this flash. Like, no, that wasn't the shot. We might need to pull it back on that one. We'll pull it back just quickly here. I swear it's coming soon. I think it might be this one here. Try and watch the roof of the car. I know it's kind of small. No? Okay. I'll go fuck myself. I swear I saw that at one point in this video, but maybe not. There was a bit of light interaction that made me kind of think, okay, maybe there's something to that. But then there's this clip here, which I actually think, yeah, this is still the same one. It's just kind of getting flipped and taken at different angles. But then there is this next one. Okay, we're turning that sound off. That's horrendous. This is the one that I had seen before, which is kind of interesting. You're getting this same kind of flash thing happening from the craft. And when I saw this, I was kind of like, yo, that's interesting. I don't really know what to make of it. I think this video is kind of irrelevant. It's just a ball, right? These videos are kind of interesting. I didn't really know what to make of it at first, but after comparing it to this one, this is sort of, this is my deduction. I made you guys a little slideshow thing here. So I've got a little screenshot zoomed in of the two different videos and the two craft that we can see. I tried to pull up the one that's a bit harder to see, and like just some very basic, like this is like super low quality video. So like you can only work with the data that you've got. But I tried to bring it up a little bit more so we could see it. And I really think that what we're looking at here is are fake videos. I think these videos are fake, unfortunately. Because if we overlay these two pictures, it's just too perfect. Now, you could argue that you know, it's the same craft. It's got the same lights. Of course, the lights are going to be on and in, you know, the same place. But to me, you know, you've got to think of the camera angles, right? The angle that these people are taking this footage. The angles have to be basically perfect. And the chances of that happening are extremely low. And the fact that these just kind of surface, like I'm assuming on TikTok or something like that, because I could only find vertical copies. I'm going with the fact that this is just someone with, I would say, like, you know, half decent visual effects skills, making UFO videos on TikTok, because this is just too identical to me. Not just the lights and everything on the craft itself, but the perspective that those videos are taken from basically has to be identical. And, you know, not only that, but like the distance from the person with the camera to the craft. So many things have to be exactly the same for that to look so similar. And for me, that those videos are a write-off. So I just wanted to give you a little analysis on that, because a few people have been asking. But we've got one more clip. We've got one more clip to get through. So let's jump back to Dylan. Dylan Borland, return to the stand, please, sir. And we are going to skip to about here. And like I said, guys, there is lots of good stuff in this interview. So it's on Jeremy Corbell's channel. The full link is in the description if you want to go and check it out.
So you have direct knowledge of UAP being actual craft of unknown or non-human origin. From your official capacity of work, you have some direct knowledge of that?
100%. Not only do I have it, I testified to it. I provided materials proving it, and it was proven to me that what I provided was in fact true.
Who did you testify to? List them out.
Senate staff, House staff, Arrow, and the ICIG.
Under oath.
Under oath. FBI was there. The ICIG was there. The DOD was there at points in time. Staff members from armed services, intelligence. Basically, I went through the whole kit and caboodle to tell the truth and get this on record, because I have grave concerns for what is happening to people.
Is there some?
Like, he basically listed like every agency or department that you know, I can think of. Even RO. Even the ones that seem like they're designed to pick up whistleblowers and silence them. And, you know, when Michael Herrera is coming out saying there's no point coming forward, like they already know everything, it makes you wonder, like, okay, if Dylan Borland, the guy who's saying I've got firsthand knowledge of reverse engineering, craft, all this kind of stuff, and I've gone to the FBI, RO, DOD, all these places, and I've told them where to go, who they are, what they're doing, it's like, okay, so what's next? If you've got that information, we don't need to have more hearings. Do something. You know that meme of like the guy poking it with the stick? Like, okay, come on, do something. You've got, what else do you need?
Something else in between that thing that you saw that went, other experiences, things that you saw either as a citizen or while working for the government that you want to share with us?
There are many. I think as of this time, what I will say is this. I have direct first-hand knowledge and exposure to crash recovery, reverse engineering, integration of technology into
redacted,
as well as the most important piece of technology on the planet, and it's not the craft themselves.
So that is obviously a little bit of a, I mean, there's a few bombshells in that one. Direct first-hand knowledge of reverse engineering, craft retrieval, reverse engineering, and implementing that technology into redacted. I mean, I'm sure, you know, we could probably just say the military as an overarching, you know, replacement for that redacted. Probably the answer is somewhere within that. But the biggest, most important thing is not necessarily the craft.
It would be the power source.
You can make that assessment yourself.
And I feel like what's happening there is basically Dylan doesn't want to be on camera saying it, but I'm sure he's told Jeremy more off camera. And it feels like what's going on there is like Jeremy is basically being able to say what Dylan can't say, but because it's Jeremy just speculating, it's like, it's okay. But I think that makes a lot of sense, right? That the biggest secret is the power source, which is likely free energy, 0-point energy, right? That is the big secret.
So you saw these things in between when you became a whistleblower and went through that process after the Langley thing, or you explain that to us?
All right, so it'd be a long way to answer this, sir. So because I was part of
redacted,
I had to deploy under
redacted.
Part of that required.
I hope no one's playing like a redacted drinking game, because you're probably passed out by now. Let's catch up on a few chats here. We've missed a few. Michael Frost, $8, says, I think most of your theories will be proven correct in time. Thank you very much, Michael. I mean, they don't call me Josh Radamus for nothing. I'll say that. Magic celebrating 7 months as a member. My man. Hey, everyone. This is Michael Aquino. Thought I'd take a stab at Friday night live stream. Happy Friday all. Thank you for joining us, Michael Aquino. I hope your eyebrow management is going well, because they are certainly overdue for a hedge trim. Toxic Fart says the flash on the roof of the car got redacted. And Rambro has gifted a membership. My man, Rambro. Thank you very much, sir. Guys, slap a like on the video for Friday or Saturday, depending where you are.
I getting my wisdom teeth removed. When I had my wisdom teeth removed to deploy to Afghanistan, they cut the nerve in my face. So I can't feel the right half of my face, left half of my face is numb. I just can't feel, can't taste, teeth destroyed.
Why was that required? Why was that?
Because from my understanding in the DOD, the way they explain it to me is the #1 reason for people coming back from overseas is dental issues. So to preemptively prevent people coming back from dental and impacted wisdom teeth and those issues, they remove them preemptively. So I was required to get my wisdom teeth removed. During that process, they cut the nerve in my face, can't feel.
Dude, that's so rough. So they forced him to get his wisdom teeth removed because before he was deployed, like, they wanted to just get it out of the way so he doesn't have to come back in case it happens. And then when they did the surgery that they forced him to do, they accidentally cut a nerve, and now he can't feel like both sides of his face still to this day. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about ruining your life in this surgery that we forced you to have. Unlucky. Off you go. Off to Afghanistan you go.
Around that time, preparing to deploy to Afghanistan, I also slipped a disc in my back. So slipped my disc L5S1. And long story short, I went up to med board. I had to go to specialists in Richmond. I had to go to the Navy. I went all over Southern Virginia trying to figure out what to do about my jaw, my teeth, my tongue, my mouth, all on record. And when I went up for med board, they had denied I ever had the surgery and kicked me out of the Air Force as a 10% disabled veteran, which they said my herniated disc wasn't even that bad. And I had to fight the VA for over 10 years for them to even acknowledge I had the wisdom teeth removed, which is...
Wow. Wow. So not only did they force him to have surgery, screw it up, and cut the nerves in his face, now they're taking away any compensation for it and denying that it even happened. This is the country that he dedicated his life to serve for, by the way. This is the country he dedicated his life to that is treating him this way. Just by the way.
It's getting into things that are odd, to say the least, and what has happened to me since I saw that triangle and what has happened to me since I came into the information I came into.
Was there some kind of written record that you had seen that triangle that leads to complications for you? Because you said you didn't really file an official report. You just told some people about it.
No, I never filed any official statement, not until much later 2021 time period. And we'll get into that, which is after all this stuff happened to me. I'm at DITRA and I'm still paying attention because I know what's happening. I'm looking at ATIP and OSAP and I'm monitoring files that are coming across. I saw my clearances, but nothing other than word of mouth, or if there was something else that had happened that night that I'm unaware of, there should have been nothing official.
BAE is, we talk about Lockheed and Northrop and the big companies, aerospace companies that you think, those guys are the keepers of the secrets. BAE does what?
BAE is UK's version of Lockheed and Northrop Grumman, and they have an American subsidiary branch that's allowed to operate in America, since technically you're not foreign governments working in secret no foreign areas. But BAE is Britain's pretty much largest aerospace company, who is probably very well informed on this subject.
British company that does a lot of work for the U.S. government.
Yep. And the British government, Five Eyes, intelligence, aerospace engineering, I mean, it is the British version of Lockheed Northrop.
You could hire.
I find it interesting that, they're making a point to talk about this in this interview, that BAE is not only involved and working throughout the United States, but they're making it clear that like BAE is a British equivalent to Lockheed. I think there are reasons why people talk about certain things in these kind of interviews, right? I don't think this just came up in conversation and they decided to talk about it. Like, I think there's a reason why they're telling us about BAE.
Hired by them to do what? What's your job?
Full motion video analyst, intelligence analyst, in a similar capacity that I did for the Air Force.
You're looking at sensor systems?
That is part of it, yes, sir.
And again, in conflict zones, or what? Doing?
Yes. Yeah.
Primarily conflict zones.
Primarily. I mean, there's a lot with this whole thing in my time there that I know is going to be so restricted, and I don't want to give them a reason for them to come after me, but yeah.
So BAE, you're working in the United States for a British aerospace company. The information, though, is shared with American intelligence?
Yes. Yep. And sometimes other nations, depending on what it is.
British, of course.
Five Eye. So Australia, Canada, Great Britain, New Zealand, US.
What are you seeing? What are you looking at?
Redacted.
Did you like your work for BAE?
Early on I did. And then things took a dramatic, insane turn. And at that point I became very disgusted and it got insane.
What was the turn? What did you do?
I found out that I was working illegally the entire time I was there. So there is a process that you are supposed to have your clearances housed in called Scattered Castle or JPass that has changed since then. And I ended up working over there, and I was quite open about my experiences, having seen what I've seen at Langley Air Force Base and elsewhere. And about 7 months into working there, I found out that my clearance was revoked administratively and I was not in any system and no one could look me up. So I was basically stuck working there indefinitely, or I had to leave the IC completely.
Was this a situation where it sounds like administrative terrorism, where it sounds like some sort of purgatory, where you're put in a position where you're technically illegally working, which means you can't go out and get other employment, you can't leave that job? Is there something I'm missing? Like, why would you be put into this restricted category unless you had accidental exposure about direct UAP information, including reverse engineering?
That is the best guess I have. And the reason why I have that opinion is because I know people who worked in the legacy program that their careers were tanked. Very, very, very similar things that were done to me were done to them.
So he was exposed, and I think we should talk about it.
Yeah, so you were exposed to what? What did you see that, why would they take that step? You're working for them, doing a good job, you like the work in general, and then suddenly you learn out, I don't have a security clearance. Did you say, hey, what the hell, where's my clearance?
Oh, I did, and I was persona non grata. New people were told they weren't allowed to contact me, not allowed to talk to me. It's actually a joke. The people that I'm still great friends with, a lot of people I work there with, and you could call me abrasive. People love me or they hate me. I'm going to tell you what it is. I try to mitigate how rude it sounds, but the truth is the truth. And some people love it, some people hate it. But it is to this day a joke amongst my coworkers that I work there with, which was they had it out for me.
Well, it has to.
I respect that. that's the way to be. What Dylan just said there. You know, some people think he's abrasive, but the reality is the truth is the truth, and he just says it how it is, and he's all for the truth. I absolutely respect that, 100%. Joy Leaphart says, I think Jeremy is like a kid who knows a secret and he can't sit still. It's literally killing him and has been for years. Actually, I think Jeremy's like this kid. Look, right here. When Dylan is speaking and it's not Jeremy's turn to talk, we could probably just put this here. We could probably just leave that there and it would be the same video. Just busting to speak. Dying to say anything that he can to steal the spotlight. No, I do like Jeremy, but I also enjoyed just teasing him a little bit.
To be a reason.
Yeah, bottom line,
to do.
That is my impression is that they had it out for me because I was knowledgeable about the subject and the reality of it, and I was talking about it fairly openly because to me it's not this big deal. Like, this is reality.
But you were exposed specifically to proof about UAP reverse engineering in official capacity, meaning while you're at work and with those individuals. Can you, I know that you've tried to do this a number of different ways. Now you went to the ICIG, you've testified to Arrow.
He's so ADHD, I love him. Me too, honestly. And that's why I feel like I can tease him, because I'm literally exactly the same. I'll sit here with my knee tapping like crazy too. Like, I resonate with Jeremy. I really do.
Is it that you saw and found out and can tell us about?
And it wouldn't be a Corbell podcast without a dramatic ending that leaves you just hanging for the next episode.
To be continued in part 2.
To be continued in part 2. Interesting. Where have you guys gone? There you are. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about this? Do you think, I had this like random, well, it's kind of not random, but I mean, I just can't help but try to think about things in like various perspectives. And I think that's a healthy thing to do, right? But one of those perspectives that I try to think about intentionally, not that I really got any feeling from this that it is, but I can't help but think, what if this is a psyop? Like, what if, and again, don't take me out of context here, I'm just posing an alternate way of thinking. What if, like, Dylan Borland is from the intelligence community and his job is to be this whistleblower who says all these things that gets majority of the people on his team and on his side and believing him, but it's actually still just part of a coordinated release of information. And he actually is doing this on behalf of an intelligence agency. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm just trying to think of all possibilities here, because at the end of the day, until we actually get proof of anything, kind of like anything and everything should sort of be on the table with like varying degrees, right? Nice timing just to keep the show going. Yeah, it does. It's sort of, because it sort of feels like that sometimes. Like, it feels like we sort of get just, it's always just a little bit more, but it's never conclusive. Don't say that, Josh. I know, like, I know people don't want to hear that. And, let me be clear. I'm not saying that this is what's happening. But I don't think, I think it's a good thing to just like, keep that in the back pocket. Don't forget that like, I understand that these people are going, if we're to believe what they're saying, which, Dylan does seem authentic, they're going through hell to talk about this stuff. But at the same time, it is all kind of like, certain things are being redacted, which means like it's okay for them to say, I've got firsthand knowledge of reverse engineering and all this kind of stuff, but then little bits are redacted. So it's like, it was okay for him to say this. It was okay to say X, Y, and Z, but this other stuff isn't okay yet. So who's determining that it was okay to say, you know, about reverse engineering and all this kind of stuff? Like, you know, if you're blowing the whistle, blow the whistle loudly, not blow half the whistle and redacted. Do you know what I mean? These are the kind of things that I think of. I'm not saying that I don't believe him, but I just think like I'm always 1 foot out, because like, hey, until like we get something conclusive here, we need to be aware that we may be in the greatest psyop of all time. And you guys know I'm all in on it. I'm all in on aliens, UFOs. I want it all to be real. I want to believe, but I also don't want to believe in bullshit. So there is a massive part of me that's like, are we in a psyop? And, you know, if you go to the Polarity store, you can get yourself a t-shirt right here that says reality is a psyop. So, you know, I'll leave that one up to you. The link is in the description. Like I said, there have been tests ran recently that have come back with astonishing results, actually, that when you wear Polarity merch, you are 3 times as likely to get laid. Results may vary. There are no guarantees with purchase, but these are the statistics that we're getting back from the surveys. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the stream today. Hope you had a good time at church. I appreciate you guys being here. The love, the generosity in the chat. You guys are the best. I appreciate you. I love you. Have a good weekend. Be kind to each other. Touch some grass. And I'll see you next time.
We're going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.